Hi, teacher. Good evening.
Good evening.
Kritika. The purpose here is to interview you for my English teaching material assignment. Um, Before we start to our big topics, big questions, let me just ask you on your short intro on where are you from and which levels do you teach and sort of that. Just give me a short intro of yourself.
Okay. My name is Sabitra Ramachandran. I am currently working at SK Tanjung Tokong, located at Penang. So I've been here for almost 4 months, and I have worked in the government sector for almost 4 years. So before teaching in SK Tanjung Tokong, I was teaching at a school located at Sabah, in a school located at Sabah. So it
Mhm.
was really an interior school. It is known as
Mhm.
it is SK Pantai Boring. It was initially known as Pedalaman 3 and now Pedalaman 2. Mm, I've been teaching, I'm an English option, teaching English for almost 4 years.
Okay.
And
Um,
sorry, I'm a primary school teacher.
Primary school. Okay. Um, where did you continue your study before? And did you continue in private or government?
Okay, I enrolled my studies in a private university. I did
Mm-hmm.
my TESOL program in MSU, Management and Science Universities, for almost 4 years, and then I graduated. I worked in an international school as an assistant teacher for almost 2.5 years, and then I applied for this government job, and I got posted to Sabah.
So from teaching in international school, you started to gain experience, and then you slowly started to apply for the government sector job, and then you enrolled in it.
Yes.
Okay. So That's very great to know you actually, and this is going to be our very just like a Q&A session. So I hope you get to share your experience with me so that it will be helpful for my assignment and also for whatever that I'm going to venture for my future as well.
Okay.
Okay. So let's start from a very general question. Since this assignment is about teaching materials, what type of teaching materials do you normally use at school?
Um, Okay, since I was in a rural area, since I was in Pedalaman 3, I had difficulties to implement teaching materials in the classroom because I could not find a lot of materials there. So what I usually do, I will usually use, since English is a language, it's a language that is more into essay writings, vocabulary, and grammar. So I usually play games like charades, role play, and I usually use what I do, I'll use a paper. If, for example, for essay writings, I'll jumble up the
Mhm.
format in a paper.
Okay.
Okay, I'll write the format, I'll jumble up the format, I'll ask students to move into groups, and I'll ask them to arrange the format. That's one of the
Mhm.
activities I do. And then role play in terms for them to remember the story and for them to learn in an interactive way. So I give them role play. So students are allowed to bring their materials, their mind, because usually students at Sabah, they love doing TikToks a lot. So they have their
Mhm.
materials. So I'll ask them to bring their
Mhm.
materials to class, materials which are appropriate, okay, to be brought to schools. I'll ask them to create a story. Create an interesting way, to make the story interesting and to present in front of the class using their props,
Mhm.
and they present. So that's one of the
Uh,
interactive ways I use lah. Sorry, I use in the
okay.
classroom.
Mhm. Okay. These are basically it is more towards to task-based materials. Am I right? So
Yes,
like
correct.
it is um task-based materials. It means basically you you learn by doing it. You
Correct?
learn by by experiencing it. So in today's education culture, educators are now, they are preparing themselves to use this task-based materials more,
Correct.
because in my era,
Mm-hmm.
we were more introduced to old traditional classroom method,
Mm-hmm.
where teacher teach and then students receive the information.
Correct.
But now it's totally way more different, where teacher gives them the topic, they students brainstorm it and they produce the outcomes,
Correct.
and from there teacher will be giving the feedbacks.
Correct.
So it feels it feels more new,
Mm-hmm.
and it is also challenging at the same times, because sometimes students would not be meeting the requirements that we want from them.
Okay,
So
correct.
so just as what you said, so I think it is what is happening in today's classroom setting. So let's jump to the next question. So this is going to be a very general question too.
Mm.
Um, do you use different types of teaching materials to all levels, or do you just prefer using one teaching material that is enough to teach for all the students? Which means, what levels do you usually teach, Miss?
Sorry, what language?
What levels? What
Or
levels? Like,
what
do
level?
you
Okay.
teach year one, year two? Ah, yes.
Okay, I have taught all levels from year one
Mm-hmm.
up to year six. Now in my
Mm-hmm.
current school, I've been given one class to teach, which is year one. But when I was at
Mm-hmm.
Sabah, I was given to teach all the levels, year one to year six. So from my experiences, what I realized is, um, it is not the same from level 1. If you compare level 1 to level 6, it is totally different. Okay, and we have
Yeah.
lower phase and upper phase. So students are exposed to essay writings, are really exposed to essay writings when they are in their upper phase. So in lower phase, they learn how to write simple sentences, simple and complex sentences. Okay, so it is this is one of the examples that differentiates the upper and lower levels. Okay, so when I
Mm-hmm.
taught the lower levels is very easy. Like you teach about stationaries, you teach about what is in your house, you teach about your friends, what is in school. But upper level is not more like that. Upper level is more towards writing. Okay, so when I
Mm-hmm.
teach the lower levels, I usually use games like
Mm-hmm.
and then I'll hide the objects, hidden objects, and students have to find the objects. And then I bring them outside of the classrooms. So these are the activities that I do for that I implement in my lower phase. Whereas upper phase is more towards one of the examples was role play, and then I
Mm-hmm.
have a talk show so that students can work into groups and they can brainstorm more ideas. So these are the
Mm-hmm.
activities, two different activities to do. Because I feel charades, like activities that I said, charades, hidden objects are all uh too childish for the upper phase students.
Yeah.
So
They
that
need more. They need to brainstorm way more than what
yes,
the low
correct,
level are doing. Yeah.
correct.
Okay.
And then what else? For when I taught the lower phase students, so in terms of writing sentences, what I do, how I teach is I give them a picture. I ask them to analyze the pictures first. I analyze the pictures and then I see what can they see from the pictures. So if let's say, okay, what color can you see? So if they say they can see blue color, so I'll ask them to just show sorry, I'll ask them, can you see blue color or not? So if they say yes, so I'll ask them to take their color pencil and show me which is blue color. So in order for me to know whether they know the color or not. So that's one of the techniques I use to teach them also.
Mm.
So did I
Okay.
answer your question?
Yes, yes, yes,
Okay.
miss. So, yeah, from what you told just now, it is more towards to making them, experience exploration more. They get to
Correct.
explore and they learn, and then together with that, they not only get to come in class and learn something, but they are going to receive something from what you are teaching basically.
Correct.
So that is uh, enough for us to give.
Okay.
And then the next
Can
scene
I add
it is
another
going to
thing, Kritika? Sorry to interrupt. Can I add another thing? And
yes.
because this is what I went through, what I realized when I taught the children at Sabah, one of
Mhm.
the barriers that I encountered, during teaching Sabah is the language barrier because in Sabah, English is totally a new language for them. So when I initially taught them, it was very difficult for me to communicate with the students, because
Mhm.
I am when I was a student and even now, I'm not allowed to use other languages to teach the children. Until now, I have to use English. Because I'm an English teacher, I'm teaching English, so I only have to use English. Whether the students understand or not, I still have to use English. So that was very difficult for me. So one way that what helped me was the drilling process, drilling where I have
Yes.
to repeat, I have to repeat. And
Mhm.
another way that caught students' attention was rewarding them. Because what I always do every Friday, I always choose one prince and one princess, prince of the week, princess of the week. So
Yes.
for those who behave well, who concentrate, who are able to answer my question, and I always praise them during assembly time. I always reward them during assembly time. So students get motivated and they want to learn more. So I was
Mhm.
able to see improvements in the children, and students were able to understand English language later. Not, of course,
Mhm.
not so perfect, but there are
Yeah, not
improvements.
immediately.
There are improvements. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's true. When you are, when you have to go to a rural school, to a place like that, we of course we're gonna deal with all kind of problems, and of course the language,
Mm.
another the network issue, and sort of. And yeah, the next is going to be about technology, which
Okay.
is technology and interactive materials. How do you basically use digital platforms by having to, uh, work in a very, uh, rural place like
Yeah.
Sabah?
Hmm.
How did you manage to use technology in your classroom actually for your teaching materials?
Okay. Actually, when I was working at Sabah, when I was teaching there, I had a lot. I used to have internet issues frequently. So, but thank God, because I taught in Sabah in 2022. So when in the year of 2023, have you heard about Starlink?
Tali.
Yeah, there's an
No, I'm not.
internet, there's a modem.
Okay.
It helps you to connect to the internet, although there's a network issue there, even if you don't get line. But when you have this modem there, you are able to get connected to the internet. So I had that.
Oh.
Okay, so it wasn't an issue for me after that. But in my earlies, when I went there, when I firstly went there, I had some issues with the internet. So during that time, what I would do some hands-on activities with the students. I won't use the
Mhm.
internet. I teach them. So I'll ask them to come, and because usually in Sabah it's a very small classroom, and there are 18 to 20 students. Maximum there are 18 to 20 students in a classroom. Okay,
Okay.
so there's a carpet there. I'll ask students to come and sit to make the lesson interesting. Sit. So I'll teach them, and then I'll give them activities. If there's some issues with the internet. So I'll give them
Uh,
some activities such as like whatever I said just now, role play, and then I give them, group activities. They discuss and then they
mhm.
present, and then I reward them. So I'll have these kind of activities during when there's some issues with the internet.
Oh, okay.
Mm.
So, it is not said that you are not really using internet at all. I mean,
No,
you're
no,
not
no.
using teaching materials that that comes from the digital platforms, that you're not
Um,
using them really? You did not use them?
yeah, I did not really use them. Like yes, I did not really use them, but I used Kahoot. Once I've used with my children. Sometimes I use Kahoot with them. Because our school we
Oh,
have tabs, the government provided tabs
oh,
for the children,
okay.
not for the children, for the school. So I'll give
Mm-hmm.
each of them one, and then when I conduct the Kahoot lesson, so they'll be able to answer using their tab. That one very
Mm-hmm.
seldom. That is very seldom.
Yeah, yeah. Because um, usually schools in rural places like this, they won't be having much facilities.
Correct?
Sometimes the school will be left out.
Yeah.
There won't be any proper authorities to go and check on them whether the school has good facilities or not. But
Correct.
it is good that the school does actually provide tablets for the students, as you mentioned, and
Mm.
this can provide them the opportunity to learn beyond the box. Like they could, not just reading textbook and going through whatever the teacher is
Correct.
giving, but they could actually enhance their technology skill.
Correct.
That's so this is like what I can say. This is really one of the good things that the government has done to the schools.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to ask if do you adapt or modify materials from textbook? If yes, how? Like, do you use the textbook frequently, or do you take whatever uh textbooks does also provide activities in that they have
Correct.
they have their own activities. Like, do you use them, or do you use them always, or how?
Okay, I don't use them always because
Mm-hmm.
whatever is in the textbook, it doesn't suit the children's level, the children's competency level. Okay, so some of the subtopics, yes, I do follow, but some of them I do not really follow. I teach whatever it is in the textbook, but whenever I give them activities, I create my own activities. I do not follow whatever it is in the textbook. Something similar, but a bit easier.
That
Because,
which can match their
yes, can match their level,
proficiency
their
level.
correct proficiency.
Okay. Yes. And then next is going to be about speaking skills, questions that relates to speaking skill. As you have mentioned just now, students from Sabah, they had to face this difficult time with you to speak and to learn language.
Yeah,
Basically, this is because they are not really exposed to these languages that they are
correct,
brought up, since small, they are brought up by using their own native language, their mother tongue. So they are not really exposed to speaking English. So,
correct.
so what am I going to ask is to enhance speaking skill among students, what type
Hmm.
of teaching materials do you prefer to use and why do you prefer to use?
For speaking skills, isn't it?
Yes, yes, mainly
Okay.
for speaking skills.
Okay. For speaking skills, I did not really use any other uh teaching materials. I usually focused on usually what I'll do, I'll give them group activities and I'll want them to come and present in front. So
Mm-hmm.
I usually use this technique because I feel this technique really works for me. Student, as I said, student loves rewards. Okay, student really love
Mm-hmm.
rewards. So whenever I give them these activities, work in a group, come in front and present, it works. It works, and then when I reward them, it works, and I'm able to see that they are able to they concentrate in class, and they're able to deliver the content properly according to whatever I taught them. You understand what I mean? So,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
that is one of the ways, and then I always do a talk show in class based on their
Uh-huh.
creativity. So this is where they bring in their props and all that, and then
Mm-hmm.
they're very creative. They are able to make people laugh with their humor sense and all that, you know. So they're able to make their talk show creative and funny in a funny way. So the class
Mm-hmm.
doesn't get bored and it's
Mm-hmm.
very interesting. And but the most important part is they deliver the content. The message is there, the topic is there, and they deliver properly, creatively.
Talk show. It's a
Yes, a
very
talk
nice
show.
idea. I think I'm going to bring this idea into my internship later.
Okay.
So yeah, it is because it brings out the language that is being hidden in them. It's not that they can't, they have to try, they have to practice it so that they could, speak as how much that we are speaking. Because even when we are small, when we were in our childhood days, of course, we had our troubles in speaking,
Correct.
not just in English, but also in other like Bahasa Melayu and all other languages as well.
Correct.
So I think practicing more and giving them the opportunity to speak will be the better teaching material
Correct.
for me.
And another thing,
Yeah.
sorry, Kritika, another thing, what I'll
Yeah.
do is I'll give them a debate competition because they like to,
Ah,
when I teach, they always, what I realize in them is they always want to answer first. Teacher, I want to answer. Teacher, I want to answer. They cannot answer. They cannot answer. I want to answer. So they have that urge, you know, to answer.
the curious.
Their curiosity to answer. Correct. So when I have a debate
Mm,
competition, for example, year four, I teach them about sports. So I give them,
mm,
okay, I'll give them a situation where, okay, this girl, these are her criteria. So which activity is suitable for her? For example, badminton or volleyball. So they have to debate. Why badminton suits this girl? Why volleyball suits this girl? Although their English is not fluent, but I love seeing them trying. They speak broken
mm,
English, okay, but there are improvement, you know. They speak broken from zero to at least 30%, you know. They are able to speak. So broken
mm,
English,
mm,
but we are able to understand what are they trying to deliver. You know, so that's how I help children to enhance their communication skills, their speaking skills. Hmm.
So yeah, debate. It's quite interesting. Even in universities, they lecturers prefer to use debate.
Debate, yeah.
Debate is one of the most helpful activity to do to enhance our speaking skills.
Hmm.
Actually, yeah. And then move to the next question. From your teaching experience, do you think speaking is one of the most difficult skills in English?
Speaking as yes, I would say yes. Speaking is
Other
difficult.
than all the other three skills like
Still
reading,
writing,
writing,
reading.
listening.
I feel speaking comes the second. The first one is writing.
Mm-mm-mm.
Writings, but speaking is also considered one of the difficult skills to be taught and also to be for students to learn because it's not
Mm-mm.
easy for me. Like for me, based on my experiences, when I was young, my parents used to speak English. I believe for it's the same for you also. We are used
Yes, yes.
whenever we are small, we are used, you know, with that language. So it isn't a
Yeah.
barrier for us. It isn't difficult for us. But these children, they are used to speak in Bahasa Melayu. So
Their
English,
native
they
language.
only learn English in school, you know. So it
Mm.
is difficult for them. For me, I feel this kind of children, not only this kind of children, throughout my experiences, speaking is a difficult skill for students to learn.
Mm.
Hmm.
Sometimes what they write, what they are able to write, they can't really put them into words,
Correct?
into the speaking.
Yes,
They
correct.
they can write well, but they can't speak.
Speak, correct?
They can't really put them into words. They can't really like form the structure of the sentence by
Yes,
words, like by
correct.
speaking it. So I've been for an government school for my
Hmm.
diploma internship,
Hmm.
and I have seen students facing this issue where they can write well, but they couldn't speak on
Okay.
how much well they write. They couldn't
Hmm.
speak as much as like that.
Hmm.
So from there I started to realize that okay, speaking is actually difficult.
Difficult.
Like it is not the same as what we thought. Maybe it is easy for us, but not for them because they are
Correct.
not exposed to it earlier.
Correct.
Um, so for the next question, it is about it relates to speaking skill as well.
Okay.
Uh, as a teacher, what is the best way you think it is to make a student bravely speak without hesitation if he or she is an introvert or a shy student in order to check their speaking proficiency, normally in school or in classroom or anywhere? How do you make them to speak? Usually shy students, they will we have to struggle so much to
Mm.
make them speak, and I have faced that too. And
Mm.
even if I teach tuition and all, I've seen students feel so shy to speak.
Mm.
How do you really make them speak?
Okay. To be honest, until now, I've never encountered an introvert, a very, quiet student, because all my students are very talkative. They are
Mm-hmm.
they are the one who like want to present the first. So, but in this case, what came up into my mind is uh, I used to do hands-on activities with the children. So I will ask
Mm-hmm.
them, for example, maybe I can ask them to do some I'll see what they like, what they're interested in, which activity. For example, if they're interested in drawing, in origami and all that, so maybe I'll ask them to hold on. Okay. I'll ask them to draw something. Okay, maybe for example, if it's about sports. So you draw your favorite sports, you draw as creative as you want, you color as creative as you want, and you come in front. So I'll show the drawing, I'll praise them, I'll praise the drawing, and I'll ask them to explain why did you do this? What makes you to do this? And all that.
Mm-hmm.
So then at last, I'll reward. As I said, I love rewarding students. I love praising students. I love rewarding students. So I'll reward her at last, him or.
So it is like a strategy. Like when students are shy, they can actually speak when they talk about their favorite things.
Yes, correct.
They will speak when they talk about what they like, what they
Yes,
love to do, and some
correct.
things like that. Okay. So and then this is also a question related to speaking skill as well. How do you assess a student's speaking skill? Like you said just now, you'll reward,
Mm.
or what kind of feedbacks do you give? How do you give them?
Mm. Okay, I don't understand your question. Can you please repeat?
I mean, when you assess students' speaking skill,
Okay.
you mentioned just now that you'll reward them when
Yeah,
they
okay.
do any task or anything. But other than rewarding,
Okay,
what
okay.
what what type of feedback do you give? Do you correct them when they're
Okay,
speaking?
okay. I get the
Yeah.
question. Of course, I'll praise them at the same time when, okay, if let's say now when they speak 10 words. Okay. So
Mhm.
I'll ask them more questions in the next class. Whenever I have a presentation with them, I'll ask them more questions so that for them to
Mhm.
answer maybe about 20 to 30 words. So from there, I'll say, okay, I'll give them a good feedback. Very good, but I'll also correct them. I'll ask them to speak. I'll try to speak. I'll ask them to speak. I'll see how they speak. I will ask them to speak in English. Okay. So if they're able to speak, then it's good. Of course, I'll ask more questions again. But if they are
Mhm.
able to answer with a broken
Mhm.
English, so I'll correct them. Okay, this is good.
Mhm.
I'll praise them. This is good, but you have to improve. You have to work more on this. You get what I mean?
Okay, got it. Okay. So next the next two question is going to be a final reflection question,
Okay.
which is we're going to talk about whether is there any time where you feel that your teaching materials have failed? Like, is there any time that you feel that your whatever
Understood.
that you prepared for the
Mm.
students, it failed. It didn't meet the requirements that you
Yes.
expected.
Initially, when I was during the when I was initially teaching at the start, in the beginning, I
Mm-hmm.
realized because I was new that time, so I prepared a teaching material for the Sabah students. I mean, the children who I taught at Sabah. When I prepared, the
Mm-hmm.
students were like, okay, for one of the examples was arranging the essay formats. So when I prepared, students were unable to do it. Students were unable to do it because they did not know what was the content about. Although after I explained.
Okay.
So what I did
Mm-hmm.
was I showed them because why they were unable to understand is because I wrote the format and then I jumbled up and I just gave them. I did not explain in detail like, okay, so now these are the jumbled formats. So first is I arrange this and then after that I see what comes next. I arrange. I did not do that. So students did not understand. So I really have to teach them one by one, step by step. So that
Mm-hmm.
was one of the, I wouldn't say failed, but
Mm-hmm.
after I
We
taught
just
them,
need more
yes,
patience.
correct, correct. I need more patience and I really need to teach them. I need to have a depth teaching lah with them. Sorry, depth teaching with them. Hmm.
Uh, okay. So you you realize that you need to give more explanation for them to
Yes, correct,
understand.
correct.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So 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 that's how you when you came to know that okay, this whatever that I'm preparing is not really functioning. So is that how you try to adapt it? You explain more.
Yes, that's how I adapted.
Mm-hmm.
Because I got to know at the same that when that time it made me realize students' proficiency level.
Mm-hmm.
So what type of teaching materials I should prepare, how I should teach them. I really have to use the lower form, not to say lower format, but I have to teach them in a very simple way, very easy way. Hmm.
Like if it is like a very complex method or anything
Correct. Correct.
explanation like that, they are not going to understand.
Hard for them to comprehend.
Like uh it also depends on the student's proficiency level, right? Like you have to first give them a task, see
Hmm.
first on what type of level they are in, and then we prepare materials according to their levels. So
Yes,
that works
correct.
best, right?
Correct.
Mm, okay. So I think we have come to the end of the discussion. So
Okay.
this will be the last question that I will ask. So nothing much really, but I'm going to ask any advice that you would like to give the future educators who are now pursuing TESOL, who are now pursuing in the English language field, who
Hmm.
are who are very passionate about teaching, who wants to really get in the field and teach students. What advice would you give to make the both teaching and learning process to take place in a very smoother way?
Okay. What I would say is the first thing is you have to know your students. Okay, you have to
Mm-hmm.
know your students and you really have to be patient with them because now there's no more streaming. High, intermediate, and low students are all placed in a class. Okay, so
Yeah.
you have to know your students well. Okay, you have to know
Mm-hmm.
your students well. You have to be patient with them. And number two, uh, encourage group activities. Encourage more on group activities and you have to place high, intermediate, and low in a group. You have to make sure that the high students they can help the intermediate and low students. So that's how
Mm-hmm.
low students will also uh, learn in an interesting way and then create more interesting activities in class. Don't just those days teacher with chalk and talk, they say with chalk and talk. So
Yeah.
yeah, so we can't
Yes, the
this time.
traditional classroom method.
Yeah, in this
Mm.
generation we cannot just teach the students. We cannot just, just teach and then we give them activities. No, it's not going to work like that. We still need to give them some interesting activities so for the students to stay focused.
Mm-hmm.
And then understand students' needs. Like, because some students, they don't like learning by just, teachers talk and just learn. Some students might feel okay, some they are not like that. So I know it's a
Mm-hmm.
bit challenging for the teachers, but if the teachers are able to plan, to give them a plan and interesting activities that can enhance all the students' attention, then it would be great. Students, I'm sure students will have the interest to learn and improve.
Yeah. If there is hyperactive students, then of course we can't
Yes,
make
correct,
them sit in one place and we just teach and make expect them to absorb whatever we are teaching them, right?
correct,
So so I think whatever that you are sharing with me is like quite useful, and I think the upcoming generation teachers will know how to you know um, survive with students, and
yeah,
they have to somehow learn the tricks on how to handle them.
yeah,
Not tricks, but they have to strategize themselves into giving them the effective teaching methods,
correct,
and also like, and they are able to uh, whatever they're expecting from them, they are able to uh, get in return
correct.
from their teacher also. So it was a very good session with you, teacher, and